Welcome and thank you for tuning back into Youth Employment Job Hunting One-on-One series. We're going to continue talking about a couple of topics. One topic in particular that we want to talk about pertaining to youth is youth who have barriers such as high school dropout or ex-offenders. I'll speak with Mr. Freddie regarding the ex-offenders because with the CDC he works hands-on with people who have barriers of just coming out from being incarcerated. Mr. Freddie, what kind of advice can you give them regarding finding employment and how to approach addressing the issue of their past?
2 words: move forward. One of the most common comments that we get walking in our doors, especially with youth, is usually, "I messed up. No one's going to give me another shot. Every time I go somewhere, they're always talking about what I've done." And what we do is we tell them, move forward. And for some of the youth, they need to understand that your past doesn't necessarily have to follow you all the way throughout. Right. If you've committed, a crime, now we're not talking about anything really serious, but sometimes as a juvenile, as soon as you turn 18, you're now entering adult life, and some of those offenses can not necessarily go away, but they can be hidden from certain views. And we actually teach them about that, and we let them know that, look, yes, you may have made a bonehead. Everyone makes bonehead mistakes, in their life, no matter who you are. So move forward. Understand, how do I take my past and put it in a little box and say, I'll never open this box again? What do I have to do to move forward? We let them know that we have youth that are ages 18 to 21 and they've committed adult crimes, and they're saying, how am I going to move forward? The first thing that you have to do is understand that the things that you used to do, you can no longer do anymore. The people that you used to hang around, you cannot hang around them anymore. The things that you used to think, you cannot think that anymore. And again, going back to the first thing, the gut check. You do have a background. You've done some things that you regret. We understand that, and I'm glad that you're moving forward. Know that it's going to take a lot of work now. You may not be able to jump right into the banking industry after you just robbed somebody a year ago.
Right.
You may have to warm yourself up. Maybe take a job at a restaurant and work at the cash register for a while and show them that you're accountable. We had one young man who actually, he had some run-ins with the law, and he had some theft charges. He literally started working at a restaurant. He started working at the cash register. They trusted him. Now he's running 3 stores and working and running the payroll and doing everything. And this is a guy who actually, at 19 years of age, made a bonehead mistake and got into trouble. Now he's a manager and he's doing very well. It's letting them know that, yes, it's going to take a lot of hard work, but what you've done in the past does not define you today, and it sure won't define you tomorrow. Let it propel you, but not define you. And that's really what we concentrate on. We let them understand it's the mentality that you have. Once you are released from the juvenile detention center or the public, correctional system, that is done. Yes, you're going to have to overcome that, and you're going to have some struggles. Everyone has struggles. You're going to have a little bit more because of what you've had. But every day that you wake up is another day past that point. Move forward. That's the best advice that we can give.
I also, while doing the CEO work readiness training in our WIA youth department, I also advise to some of the candidates pertaining to ex-offenders to write out a speech or spill of how you're going to explain it, because there is a process to communicate it to the supervisor or the hiring manager of what happened and how it affected you and how you've overcome and bettered yourself from the incident.
Right.
Mr. Joe, I want to speak to you about how do you address high school dropouts as far as looking for employment?
One secret: you're not the only one who's made a mistake. You're not the only one who's dropped out of high school, and people who have dropped out of high school have made it. Now, as Freddie went to say, it's going to take hard work. Yes, you're going to have to put extra hours in. You may have to study extra, harder. GED is available for you to at least get to that next step. Maybe college. There are a lot of alternatives, programs that are existing out there where people can go and educate themselves. If it's not with the traditional high school 4-year college, there's trades. There are people out there that need people to help them, whether it's, I hate to say, fix a house, to doing, radio,
mechanical work,
engineering things, computers. So there are a lot of avenues that will open doors for you. You just have to be persistent in opening those doors for yourself. No one's going to open the doors for you unless they see you willing to make that step. So you can't sit there and look for somebody to hand you something. Why do you think the rich stay rich? Do you ever see the rich giving money to poor people and say, you're going to bet? Most people usually give and invest their money in something that they know they're going to get a return on. And that's the same thing. If you expect a return on yourself, you need to give into yourself, and then you'll get that return.
Right, and to piggyback on that, we let them know that that high school diploma or that GED, that's your first ticket. That's, it's not, we see people all the time that said, well, I just didn't finish. I had a child, or I got into trouble, or school just wasn't for me. And we let them know that's fine. School isn't for everyone. But you know what? A GED or high school diploma, it's going to have to be for everyone, especially with our youth today. Again, jobs that were once reserved for youth are no longer there. So they've got to do something. If you don't have your high school diploma, if you did drop out, go back. Find a way to go back. There are free programs out there. Again, if it's free, it's for me. That's the mantra. So take advantage of the programs. Get that GED, get that high school diploma. If you feel that college is not for you, there, as Joel said, there are vocational schools, short-term training. Some people say, and unfortunately, some of our youth are now the leaders of the family. They're the parents are looking to them because the parents made mistakes, and they're saying, well, I can't go get this job, which they can. But they're putting responsibilities upon the child. The youth actually have their own children now. So they are becoming the parents. They're becoming the decision makers in the family. So because of that, they don't have 4 years to go to school. They don't have 2 years to go to school. But you can pick up a trade within 12 weeks to 3 months to 6 months. Find something that you can go and participate in that will help you become more productive. It all starts, though, with that GED or high school diploma. When we talk to people and we look at those resumes, if I don't see a high school completion, it tells me something about the candidate. If you dropped out, I want to know, do you plan on going back?
Right.
And the first response when I ask that question in an interview is yes. The next question is when. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking about it. Well, as you're thinking about that, I'm thinking about hiring this person with a high school diploma. So I need you to think very quickly right now to give me the correct answer and tell me when you're going back. Because what we're looking for is, when we look for candidates, we look for people that have development potential. If I know that you are going back to school, if you are sitting for the GED exam, if you are getting ready to go to vocational school, if you are doing something, that tells me that you are going to probably be a good employee because you're trying to develop yourself. And with any organization, every organization wants to make money.
Correct.
They want people that will make them money. So if that person isn't willing to do what it takes, if I'm not willing to do something to make myself make money, then I'm not going to do the same thing for a company. So it's very crucial to get that high school diploma or GED, or at least go back and start.
And I also advise the youth to look into, as both of you said, into technical programs because the more credentials you have now make you more competitive and marketable in the work field. I have a couple of questions. I meet with youth on a daily basis, and they had a couple of questions regarding resume and cover letter. So I'm going to throw them out here to you guys. One of them, what qualities or skills should be promoted regarding the resume? Which skills stand out the most? Because I know you get the same one, I'm a good worker, responsible, reliable, but what really drives your attention when you see...
For youth?
Yeah, for youth.
Especially with the youth demographic, I think it makes more sense to put those, as I call them, skills that transfer. So simple, you've babysat your neighborhood kids and you have a reputation for watching maybe 5 other youth. And instead of putting on that resume, I babysit, you want to put that you have good time management because maybe you're watching 2 or 3 little ones. And it does take, trust me, with 2 kids at home, some serious time management to manage those kids. Being responsible, that's an area of responsibility. Who's going to, so you want to pull out things that show the character that you have. What parent is going to, well, now there are some parents out there who just leave their kids anyway. But, if you can put on there to show that you're trustworthy, reliable, dependable, you're doing things babysitting, staying right there with that same one. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to adapt to change very well because you never know what's going to happen. Those are the type of skills that I, personally would look for if I'm looking at a resume and want to give someone a chance. It'd be like, okay, they actually took the time out to convert what they do that seems simple and mundane into something that is skills that some of our adults really don't have to this day. So if you can pull that out, to me, that's a winning resume right there.
I know with some of the youth candidates as well, when I ask them, what are your skills? They say, I don't have any. I said, well, you did fundraisers, right? So you have marketing and sales experience. Or like you said, you've watched kids, so you have multitasking skills. So just because it's not professional experience and you haven't had professional training on skills, everybody possesses some type of skills that they can have to offer to an employer.
And community service is another.
Community service is another
You
one.
know, I mean, they do in high school, some organizations that you're part of if you're in high school, or in the community if you're part of different organizations. Those are other things. If you've held an office in those organizations, it proves leadership skills. So those are a lot of things that you can think about. You know, think outside the traditional area of, I did this, this, and that, but see how broad you can stretch that into different areas, and you'll see a lot of doors open.
Speaking about community service, being that you're human resource professionals, how do you view, or what's your take on community service on the resume? How does it reflect the candidate?
It shows, especially with the youth, what are you doing with your time? You know, if I don't see anything as far as community involvement, especially if you don't have your high school diploma or GED, what are you really doing with your time? If I see that you do belong to at least just one organization, and then you put a couple of community service projects, or what you've done, you know, how much money your organization has raised, just as Joe said, you know, what exactly are you doing? How long did you serve? Did you have any positions of authority in that? That's really crucial and very big. And also, when we're talking about the youth, some of these youth are getting ready to go into college. They're trying to go into trade school. They're going to have to write an essay to say what they're doing. You can pull that information right off your resume.
Right.
You know, so I belong to the Key Society, or I belong to my civic organization. I belong to, you know, my local nonprofit, and I help them out. It's very critical, because for people with limited work experience, it shows me what you've done with your time.
And to me, it also shows that you're just not concerned about yourself, but you're concerned about others. And to me, that translates into, you're not going to be that type of employee that tries to hog everything or put people under the bus and do just wrong stuff at work. But it shows that you're more of a team player. You're more concerned about the whole environment versus what's in it for me.
Resumes. What are some of the automatic red flags? I mean, I cautioned the youth about their email addresses, their ringtones, but what are some do's and don'ts for you guys?
We right now, we live in a time where the younger generation is the creative generation. I don't know any youth over the age of 6 who doesn't either have a MySpace, a Facebook, a Twitter, you know, all that. So they're very creative.
Right.
And they get creative when they develop their resumes. And, you know, all the different fonts and the styles and the colors, that doesn't do well. It doesn't bode well in the job search. So it's making something that's still professional, that's neat, that's organized, that's structured. That's a big do. You know, as creative as you want to be, that's actually helping you in a negative way when we're talking about looking at resumes.
Yeah, and there are boundaries, and one thing that you did mention is especially the email address. You know, I don't want to see something. For sake of TV, I won't put it up there. But, you know, you don't want to see these club names, you know, Candy Apple 2012, you know, Boss Hog on a resume, especially if you're trying to go somewhere that's professional, or even something that, to me, an email name represents you.
Right.
So if you want that identity stuck with you and you think that's okay, then by all means, I wish you the best of luck in your job search. But you definitely want to be sensible when you put your email address on there. Especially, I think it makes more sense to me, if you want someone to remember who you are, why don't you just use your name as your email address?
Right.
And that way it's easier for them to contact you or to think about, oh, wait a minute, his email address is his name. Send him a quick note, the job is his. So I definitely think you need to be cautious about that. You definitely need to be aware of the size. You don't want something that's too big, and you don't want something that's too small.
Okay.
And 2 words, spell check.
Oh, yeah.
Spell check.
It's on the computer.
It's free. So use it. It's just
So
very
that means
important.
It's for me.
It's
exactly.
That's
Spell
right.
check. And punctuation.
Okay.
Don't have run-on sentences. You know, make sure everything is formatted right. Freddie said it earlier. There are templates out there. You really can't. If you mess up a template, that shows me that you're going to mess up the job, because it's formatted for you. Everything is lined up. Save it. Spell check it. Make sure you put the punctuation, and make sure it's clean. Don't have it wrinkled, fold it with creases in it. Put it on a nice, you know, if it's white paper. I mean, if you can't go out to the store and get a nice heavy paper, just put it on a plain white piece of paper. But make sure it's clean and neat.
So resumes need to be neat, email addresses need to be professional, it needs to be clear and concise, and then there needs to be no misspelled errors on your resume to get the best chances of getting whatever job that you're applying for. One other thing I want to talk about is how far, because I talk to a lot of the youth who are trying to get in certain establishments, and one thing I always say, hey, go volunteer. How far does volunteer get with you guys as far as getting someone in the door for employment?
So there's two ways. Internships. So we do at my company internships, paid and volunteer. And I think it goes to show once again that it's more about it's developing you. So you're doing something productive with your time. Two, it gives that employer or potential employer an opportunity to see how you work. So it's like they're getting a free service from you, and you're getting a chance to interview in the capacity of where you want to work. So to me, I think it's a win-win situation. If you come in and say, look, I want to just offer some time, and even if it's not saying working at the company, you may meet someone that has a key role in the company that you really just want to invest time, that wants to spend time with you. To me, that says a lot. I have a young gentleman that, and it goes back to what you're saying, the family looked to him. He was the first in his family to go to college, and he was the youngest of all his siblings. He's graduated from college, and he wanted to get into the banking industry. Schooling wasn't all that, his forte, but he finished school, and he was very persistent. And so what I've done is I meet with him once a month. I may not have a job to offer him, but I have experience that can help him land a job. And I have a network that if I introduce him to someone else, he may be able to get that job. And so he wanted to go in banking. It's been about 2 years. And he finally actually landed a job in banking just because of that connection. So spending time with that person, it's a shame that we don't have a lot of mentors these days and sponsors that are really going to take that opportunity. But sometimes it calls for persistence and being kind of aggravating in a way that's professional but really serious about, look, this is what I want. I need someone to help me get there. And if you do that, whether it's, like I said, if it's in an internship, if it's being a volunteer, if it's being, a mentee, that can go a long way for you.
Cool. Just to add to it, volunteering does one critical thing. It lets someone know that you are willing to do what it takes for free to invest your time. Again, going back to the community service, what are you doing with your time?
Right.
By volunteering, you're showing the employer, you're showing, the school representative, you're showing anyone that's looking at that, I'm the kind of person that if I have to stay late, I'll stay late. If I have to come in early, I'll come in early. If I have to help somebody out, I'll help someone out because I'm doing it right now. No one's paying me to do this. I'm doing this on my own. I'm doing this out of my own goodwill. I'm doing this to develop myself. I'm volunteering. It's free. I'm just doing it out in the open. That's a critical key quality because if you're willing to do that now and you're not being paid, once you have a paying job and there needs, can anyone stay late? Can anyone help me? You're used to that volunteering mentality. You're used to giving up your time. So, and employers are looking for that. Of course, employers are looking for the maximum value.
Right.
So if I know that someone is used to volunteering, I can look to that person to probably help somebody else out.
And I can hear people now on the other side of the TV, I'm not working for free. And it's like, well, what are you doing now? You're not doing anything. So the thing is, one thing I said earlier is that the knowledge that you gain, no one can take away from you.
Right.
So even if you are volunteering for free, you're getting free development for yourself, which you can put on your resume for a person who says, I don't have any skills. You put that effort of volunteering, these are the things that I did when I volunteered, on your resume. And that's also an opportunity for you to seek advancement.
And 9 times out of 10, when you're volunteering with an organization, you're getting the experience of how that organization runs. So you're going to be at an advantage as opposed to someone coming from the outside looking to apply for that same position that you're already doing and you're with the people and you're in the environment. It kind of puts you ahead of the competition when you're looking for a job or employment.
And it's a good point that you made there because I know with our company, the first group of people that we usually hire are interns. Because we can teach anyone how to be an auditor. We can teach anyone how to consult. We can teach anyone how to do the technical. The one thing that's the hardest is to adapt people to our culture at work.
Right.
And when I say culture, the lay of the land, how we act, how we conduct business, how we have meetings, that is priceless. So if we can get an intern that's actually good and knows the culture, that's the first person we're going to hire versus the person coming off the street.
And speaking of interns, who has the upper advantage on internships at organizations? The youth.
Yeah,
More
exactly.
companies are willing to give the youth the opportunity or the chance, rather, to work in the establishment either under internship or a volunteer, as opposed to as you get older. So youth are usually more competitive in the internship arena when it comes to working with different organizations. How vital are references when you're applying for a position?
With youth, references are critical. They're key. Again, how do I know that you're going to be a good employee? If you're 18 years, 19 years of age, I need someone to be able to vouch for you. If you don't have your high school diploma, or if you do have your high school diploma or GED, but no formal education beyond that, or no trade certification, even if I'm hiring you at an entry level, I need someone to be able to vouch for you. And again, going back to community service, going back to volunteering. If you're volunteering at a company, who better to give you a reference than an HR manager or a supervisor? Exactly. Who better to give you a reference than the manager at the local nonprofit or church or civic organization? Someone with clout in the community, or someone with some stature, or someone with some experience within the community. You need that in today's market. You have to stay ahead of the curve. So understanding that volunteering, doing community service, reaching out to people, getting those good character references, that's going to help you, especially with some of the youth that we talk about that have the backgrounds, that have the barriers, that have all of the past, inconsistencies. Having someone to stand up for you to say they made a mistake, or they're a youth, they may only be 18 years of age, but I know that they are mature enough to work at this organization. Right. It's crucial.
Make sure that your references are appropriate, and sometimes references can either help you get the job or not help you get the job. So you want to make sure that if you're referencing someone on your application or resume, that they at least know about it, and that they're going to vouch for you in a positive way and not a negative way. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back in one moment.
Employers, you can search candidate resumes and research labor market information at employflorida.com.